All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar on the 2025 OC and selective test changes. My name is Chris. I'm the Managing Director of Alpha One Coaching College, and I look forward to going through and providing all of the relevant information that parents and students need to know in regards to this change that is happening next year. So I can still see there's a few people joining. I'm just seeing the number of participants slowly increase. So while we wait for everybody to join, just a quick reminder for both students who are Alpha One enrolled at Alpha One, as well as students who are not enrolled at Alpha One, that the Term 3 enrollments have started. We've started accepting Term 3 enrollments. So if it is something that you are looking to you're looking to pick up another course, or if you're looking to join Alpha One in general, just you can now call our branches and inquire. So just a reminder, we have branches in Bella Vista, Parramatta, Epping, Burwood, and we are opening a new one in Tallawong next term. I can see that yeah, we've got a good number of people in the webinar now. So I think I might jump into it now. Before we start, I might just give everybody a general overview of how this webinar today will run. So the session is about an hour long, but the presentation is only about 15 to 20 minutes. Because what I've done is I've really boiled down everything that's on the government website just into just kind of like bite-sized nuggets of information that is important to you, and all the irrelevant things I've kept out of it. So the remaining 40 to 45 minutes, I'll really open it up to the Q&A for parents so that they can ask any questions. If students have joined today as well, they're also welcome to ask questions as well. And for the remaining time, I will just go through and pretty much answer and help with any queries that you guys have. So if you look around on your screen, there should be a kind of a section or a little button that says Q&A with two speech bubbles. If you click on that, you'll be able to type in your questions. And we have Sophie, one of the Alpha One moderators, here with me today. And so she will be answering some of the more simple questions, and some of the more complex questions, she'll leave that to me to answer throughout the webinar. All right. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So just to start off, we'll first go through a overview of the changes that will be happening next year. So as I mentioned, the changes to the OC and selective test will be happening in 2025. So if you're currently a Year 4 student who's about to sit the OC test this year, everything that I mentioned in this webinar won't apply to you for this year's exam. You'll still be sitting the test as a paper-based exam, same as the previous years, but you should keep this information in mind for when you become a Year 6 student in 2 years' time and you are sitting the selective test. So in terms of the changes, the changes mainly affect the logistics of the test. So essentially where you're sitting the test, when you're sitting the test, and how you're sitting the test. The changes don't really affect, well, in fact, they don't affect at all the subjects, topics, or difficulty of the exams. So essentially, when Alpha One has done all the research into the previous year's exams and, talked to students to find out what was in the test, gone through the government, the papers that the government has released onto the website, all of that research that we put into our WMT, OCTT, and selective trial test exams, that remains 100% relevant. So that's, I think, one of the most important things to understand. The changes to the future exams really just affect the logistics of the exam and not really the contents of the exam. So changes to the exam format. This is probably the most important thing that parents and students need to pay attention to. So the main thing that I'm sure everyone has heard is that the test will be changing from a paper-based exam to a computer-based format. The exam will still be written and marked by Cambridge Assessments. So they're the company that was recently, about 3-4 years ago, they took over the contract for the OC and selective exam off of ASA. So the government awarded them the contract instead. And since 3-4 years ago, they've been writing all the new OC and selective exams. So they will continue to do this going into next year as well as beyond. So that's the main reason why the content of the exam will not be changing. However, Janison Solutions, they're the company that will be administering the exam. So Janison Solutions is essentially a company that provides an online, solutions for governments, universities, schools, when they want to give their students tests, but they don't want to give it in like a paper-based format. Instead, they want to give it through like an online portal or like an online testing platform. So a lot of those institutions will go to Janison's solutions for that. So they will be the one designing the online platform and that the children will be seeing the tests from. And the other thing that the government has mentioned is that later on in the year, they will be providing some practice tests, computer-based practice tests on their website. So what I imagine that will look like, although the government hasn't provided much information, it will probably just be a link where parents and students can probably just click on it, and then it'll take them to another page where essentially they can just see questions and kind of click through them and attempt to do those questions, very similar to what it would look like in the actual real exam, so that the students get a chance to get a bit more comfortable with what things will look like when they face the test in May next year. All right. In terms of how Alpha One is adapting to these changes, the main thing is the test-based courses, such as the OC trial test and the selective trial test courses, will be changing to computer-based exams as well at the start of next term, so term 3. That means for the face-to-face classes at Alpha One, we'll pretty much be providing the students with a laptop device where the students can borrow at the start of the class to sit the practice test. And also they'll have it during the review session so that they can see what questions they got right, as well as what questions they got wrong. For our online students, it's pretty simple. They'll pretty much just sit the computer-based test through the device which they join the class from. So so a lot of parents have been kind of calling in and emailing us to ask about what changes Alpha One is doing, and that's essentially the adjustments that we'll be making so that the students are best prepared for the exam next year. Before I go on to the changes of the test dates, which is also a very important thing, I might go through some of the questions and answers. If at this point of the webinar, if you do have any questions that you'd like to just quickly jump in and ask, feel free to put it in the Q&A section and I'll go through and answer them. So, yep, I can see a few coming in now. So, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll just start with the first one. In the new exam format, so a parent has asked, in the new exam format, is the writing assessment paper-based or computer-based? So the government, based on what they've said on the website, it pretty much infers that the whole exam will be through the computer-based platform. So essentially, the writing section will be computer-based as well. So what I would recommend is for students, make sure that for parents, make sure your child has a decent typing speed. They don't have to, type extremely fast, but you don't want your child going to the test and, typing with 2 fingers, because that will drastically slow down the speed at which they can write. So if your child, most kids these days, at school work on devices. When they come home, they're, using computers and laptops, iPads. So I think a lot of kids will type at a reasonable speed. But yeah, if your child is not really used to typing, I would recommend spending some time each week just using some of those like typing programs where it just helps students learn how to touch type. So I hope that answers your question and just provide a little bit of extra advice there. I can see another question. Priyanka, one of the parents asked, would the parents be provided with SCTC questions paper from Alpha One so parents can go over it? Yes. So, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yes. So, the online platform, the kids will do it in class. When they take well, they won't take the device home. We'll hold on to the devices, but when they go home, they can log into this exact same platform where the students sat the SCTC questions so that they can view all the questions and see which ones they got right, as well as the questions they got wrong. So there's no restrictions of any sort. You can see all of the questions at home as well. I can see another parent asked, will the students be provided paper and pencils to work out the solutions? So for that one, the government hasn't said anything on their website. That one, I think I'm a little bit on the fence about. I think the government could very easily just, at every test center provide paper and pencils for kids to just do some extra calculations on, to make things a bit easier. But there's every chance that they might also not do that. That's something that we'll keep Alpha One and also myself, I'll keep quite a close eye on the information the government is providing. And for big updates such as this, where, whether or not they'll have paper and pencils, we'll let the parents know through our email, as well as through our social media channels like WeChat, Facebook, and so on. So yeah, essentially at the moment, the government hasn't provided any concrete information about that, but once they do, we'll let you know. Another parent asked, in the test, do they provide a computer or do we have to bring our own? So the government has mentioned quite clearly and a very kind of set on it that they will provide all the computers. So yeah, parents do not have to worry about having their own computer device for their child to bring into the exam. The government will be providing all the computer devices. Another parent asked, should kids practice laptop or standard keyboard just to enhance typing speed? I think my personal recommendation would be just practice across maybe 2 or 3 devices, like maybe like a laptop and then also computer. Generally, it's like, in my opinion, it's kind of like this. To kind of learn how to type, it takes this amount of effort, a lot of effort to learn how to type quickly. But once you know how to type quickly on one device, it just takes maybe like a week or 2 to just get used to another device. So what I'd recommend is just practice typing on whatever device you have available at home. And once your child is quite comfortable with that, in the real test, it shouldn't make much of a difference. But if you are really concerned that, the device I give might be different to what that my child is used to doing at home, I'd probably recommend just giving them another device to practice a little bit on, typing some, doing some practice papers on it, take them to the library, use a different device and just kind of use a variety. I think that's probably the best that you can do to prepare. And I think anything beyond that will probably be a bit overkill. But yeah, I don't think it will be a bad idea. I don't think it will be a bad idea to practice on a few different devices just for familiarity. Yep, next question. Okay, so this is an interesting question. So a parent asked, has the final decision to go online for 2025 has been made? Has the pilot schedule for June, was it a success? So just to kind of give you a bit of context, I'm not sure if parents remember this or not, if they had some elder children. But I mean, Alpha One went through this, and so I have a very clear memory of what happened back in, I think the year was 2021. Essentially, in that year, the government released an kind of announcement saying that we will take the test online that year. So it was 2021, and essentially, at the time, they were very clear about it. There wasn't any like gray area. It was very, black and white. Just okay, 2021, we're moving the test online. And then what happened was they said that it was there for about 3 months or so, and then that information got taken off the website, and then it changed, and then it said the exam will still be paper based. So that happened back in 2021, and pretty much in 21, 22, 23, and 2024, it was all paper based. So I think they could go back on it, but I think there are a few signs which I'm seeing this year, which makes me believe that it's quite certain that it will go online next year. The first thing is the amount of information and logistics that they've kind of been planning for the 2025 exams is a lot more than back in 2021. When it happened in 2021, the government didn't give any logistical information about logistics. They just said the test was going to be, it was just like a one sentence on their website saying the test in 2021 was going to be online. But when you look at what they've done this year, they've said that they'll spread the students across 3 dates. They'll have a makeup date for if students can't make the original, if they couldn't make the original test date because they were sick or had a misadventure. They said, they've moved the OC test date from July, August to May. So there's a lot of logistical sort of adjustments they've already made, which leads me to believe that the changes like 99% certain that they'll go ahead. I think the June pilot, in my opinion, I think they're probably just running it to iron out any small issues. So, for example, if a computer just kind of has a glitch, or their software has a glitch, they'll be able to go and try and troubleshoot that and implement a fix. So I don't think the pilot in June is really should we run it or not? I think it's more like what issues kind of arose during this test session, and how do we fix it? So so essentially that's kind of my thoughts on that. And if there's any other ones, any other more nuanced questions for that, feel free to just chuck it in the Q&A below. I might answer 1 or 2 more, and then I'll probably leave more for the next section. One parent asked, will there be autocorrect in the writing section? I think most likely not. I think they'll want to assess the child's grammar and spelling, so I don't think they'll have autocorrect. Another parent asked, will time given for the writing be the same? Yes, it's still the same amount of time based on the information on the government's website. So one parent, this one, a lot of parents have actually asked me as well. Will the test be adaptive? So do the questions change in the level of difficulty depending on whether it was answered correctly or not? So on the government website, it doesn't say there's any adaptive testing. They say that there is different versions of the tests. So on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as well as the makeup test, there's 4 different versions of the tests. And that makes sense, so that the kids on Friday don't tell the kids on Saturday what was in the test. But no, the government does not say that there is any adaptive testing. Okay, I think what I might do, there's a lot of questions, but I'll just quickly go through the next section and I'll answer some more questions. So I'll just quickly move on to the next one. And yes, I'm happy to stay a bit late as well after today's seminar just to get through all the questions. But I'll just start going through the next one so that I don't run over time. So this one changes the test dates. So the main thing the main group of students who are affected for the test date changes will be the OC students. So typically their exam is in late July or early August, but the government has now brought the OC test earlier all the way to May at the same time as the selective test. And as I mentioned when I was answering another parent's question, the main test dates for next year will be on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th of May. So they will now be splitting, instead of the students coming in and seeing the test on one day, they will be splitting it across several days. I think the reason why they're doing that is just because they don't have enough devices for, I think Selective, there's 16,000 kids sitting here. OC, there's I think 10. They don't have 25, 30,000 computer devices on hand to let everyone sit on the same day. So I think that's why they're kind of splitting across several different dates. And then there's also going to be a 19th of May makeup test date, which I think is really good for a lot of students and parents, because this is a makeup test date for students who get sick on the original test date or if they have a misadventure on that day. So, every year students we have students who call me, the parents are quite stressed out, and because their child was really sick on the day, range from a common cold to like something like serious like pneumonia. And it's always the government's always very like strict on who they give extra marks to and leniency to. So, if you have, a child, if they have a common cold or flu, you can be quite sick, and that really does affect your exam performance. But the government, it's very rare. I've never really seen them give any leniency towards those sort of illness and misadventures. So I think if you have a test day now, I think that's a really good sign, and it's a really good thing for students. And I think it takes a bit of stress off of the students and parents as well. And as I mentioned, there'll be different versions of the test available across each day, just simply so that the students who sat on the Friday don't share the answers or the information to students on a different day. Okay, so actually, before I go to the next one, I might answer a few more questions. I can just see questions flooding in. So I'll go through some more questions. Oh yeah. So one parent, yeah, it's just a quick answer. Yeah. So Alpha One parent asked if Alpha One's moving to online test based from Term 3. Yes, we will be for both OCTT and STTC. WMT classes will still be paper based. It's a lot of like, because we find that the paper based is really good for students to write down their working out and calculations. And yeah, so the WMT and foundations and intensive English, those type of courses where it's more like learning concept based, will still be running as paper based, and then just the testing classes will be moving to online. One parent asked just about the OCTT, if we will be moving it so that the reading, math, and thinking skills are all on the same day, like in the real test, because at the moment, OCTT is kind of split across 2 different weeks. The main reason we've done that is because when they're run all on the same day, we don't have enough time to review the questions that the kids got wrong. This is something we'll kind of have a look at in terms of the management team. We'll have a look at that. But if not, and it's still a 2-week structure, the holiday programs, such as the one that we're running in July, the July holidays for the current Year 4 students, those ones are full day programs where we do have enough time to just sit them one after the other. So that one will keep parents updated. If you'd like to check closer towards the holidays, feel free to email or give us a call. But at the moment, for the OCTT, we have been splitting across 2 weeks, just because putting all 3 subjects in one day doesn't give us enough time to review all the students' mistakes. One parent asked, for our classes face-to-face and online, how will it be different in reviewing of the test? I'm not too sure if I understand the question, but it's just the review will be the same, as in the tutor will just go through the questions, and if any students in the class got a question wrong, or if they guessed it correctly and they don't understand it, then they'll go through those questions. Yeah, if you meant something else, feel free to just ask the question again. But yeah, the way they review it face to face and online will be the same. I might try and look. Another parent asked if they'll get extra time for writing. At the moment, the government hasn't mentioned anything about that yet. One parent asked, does Alpha One have software that's similar to what students will be getting in the OC and selective exam, like a similar kind of, I assume you mean like what it looks like. So at the moment, the government hasn't release any information in terms of what it looks like. But we do have plans to kind of develop a platform which essentially mimics the kind of look and feel of the actual platform that Janison Solutions has kind of put together. So in the long term, yes. So like once we kind of know what it looks like, but when the classes start next term for OCTT and selective trial test classes, it won't be an exact match because we don't know what it looks like yet. One parent asks, will it affect Alpha 1 term charges? No. No, the online moving to online won't affect it. For the WMT course, one parent asked if there's devices. No, so for the WMT course, it's just paper. We'll still do it on booklet so that kids can write down everything and all their calculations. It's just the test-based class will move online. Good. That's a good question here. A parent asked, will they show one question at a time, or will they be able to go through all the questions? So I think just in the past, just looking at other government-based exams that they've done online, things, other type of tests, you'll go through and I think you'll see questions one at a time, but you will be able to kind of jump between questions. So if you're, say, for example, you're doing question 5 right now, and for whatever reason you want to jump and do question 32, I'm sure the platform will allow you to do that. Yeah. Parents ask, will all the sections be on the same day? Yes. So all the sections, the students will go in and sit the test on the same day. You just pick one of the days that you want to go and sit the test on. So, but yeah, no, you don't have to go and sit the selective test multiple days. Yes, the parent asks, will the test be conducted over 3 days? Does this mean the whole cohort will be divided into 3 groups? Yes. So I think how it works, generally speaking, in these type of scenarios is I think they'll give you a preference. And I think you can preference what days you want to go, I believe. But I think ultimately they'll try and meet your preferences. But if it's not an even split across Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the government potentially will just kind of allocate you to a day that you didn't really want. But if they do have enough devices for everybody, then I don't see why they wouldn't just let parents choose what day they want to sit the test and for them to just accommodate. I think just in the case where they don't have enough devices, they might just allocate you to days that you didn't preference. A parent asked, does schoolwork contribute to their mark? No, schoolwork does not contribute to their selective test mark. How does a test date get allocated? So as I just mentioned for the previous question, I think so they'll probably give you a preference, but if they don't have enough devices, they'll probably just allocate you to a day that they have spots available for. Another parent asked, for the SCTC papers online, will we make them available for retake throughout the year for practice? Yes, I think we will intend to have one copy where students can just try it again, but we'll provide details. We'll have to work through the logistics on the actual platform itself, but most likely, yes. Another parent asked, oh, I saw the question there and I think it disappeared. If there was like a kind of like a, if we'll give a paper version of it. I think at the moment, yes, we are intending to. Yes. But we also will be intending to give them like a printout, just like blank paper for them to kind of, because if they have a computer base and they're doing the review, students will want to write down their like review and write down the working out for the questions they got wrong. So we'll be providing working out paper for them to do that too. Yeah, probably just some modified version of the question booklet, which gives them space to do their working out on. Does this mean students can start submitting writing assignments online here onwards instead of, yeah, so another parent asked for just, I think, WMT homework, can they start submitting writing assignments online instead of photos of the booklet snapshots? So yeah, you can just, a lot of parents have already been doing it actually. What they do is the kids have been like just typing their their response on like Microsoft Word or just Microsoft Word, and they're just like upload that file instead of like a photo. So yeah, a lot of parents have already been doing that. And yeah, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Will students get papers to do rough work or calculations? I'll answer this one again because I answered this one a while ago. But government hasn't released that information just yet. But once we do know, we'll let parents know through email as well as social media channels such as Facebook and WeChat and so on. Okay, this is a good question. When is the best time to join OC test practice for my year 3 right now? So just providing a bit of personal recommendation and guidance. A child should do OCTT once they have a fairly good understanding of the concepts. So it's not very helpful to do OC trial test or selective trial test if a child doesn't really know the concepts, because what happens is when they go into that course, they just start getting like 20%, 30% right, and they're not really getting much benefit from the class. But if they like already know, if they know the content, and they don't have to be perfect on everything, but if they say all the concepts for OC and selective, say if they know like 70, 80% of them fairly well and confident with doing those questions, then I think it's a good time to start doing the trial test classes. And if they know 70, 80% of the concepts, it doesn't translate to they'll get 70, 80% correct in the OCTT. It'll be more like 50 to 60%. And generally what I tell parents, the rough rule of thumb, if a child is getting less than 50%, they're probably not benefiting as much. I mean, some parents just still want to get their kids to do the OCT and SATC just because they want them to start practicing time, and they find like, even though they're getting 40, 50%, the child is still happy to do it and they're happy to review the questions at home. And, those sort of circumstances, yes, you'll still be getting, benefit out of it. But for the average, the regular sort of situation, I usually, if you're getting about like, say, 50 to 70% correct, I think you would be getting, yeah, if you're getting at least 50% of the questions right, you're getting a benefit out of the courses. So yeah, that's there's no one best time. Like for example, 1 year before or 6 months before. There isn't a timeline like that. It's more based on the student's capabilities. All the questions will be multiple choice. Yes, so all the questions will be multiple choice except for the writing section. The writing section is just the usual. You have to just write something. Yeah, I'll just quickly answer this one. Yes, Alpha 1 will be changing to the computer-based trial test classes for OC and selective at the start of next term, so term 3. What websites will be used to practice typing tests? Oh, okay. I haven't looked at practice websites for practicing typing tests, and it's been a while since I've done them myself. That would take me all the way back to when I was in year 3 in the computer labs. But there's plenty. I think if you just Google, it's one of those things where there's so many. I think if you just Google like I think they call it touch typing. That's the term for when you like type really fast. I think that there's going to be a lot of websites that will pop up. I think just pick something that looks, within how much you're happy to pay for, something that, like starts from really basics, and something that a lot of people have used. And I think it's fine. Things like this, it's a really saturated sort of market where a lot of people have developed programs for it. So I think there'll be a lot of good ones out there. So, yeah. Okay. So what happens if any incidents such as the system is down during tests? So that's a good question. So I'm not sure if parents remember, there was 1 year that the OC test actually did go online. And so they did go online for that one test, and there were instances where the internet dropped out, and the kind of like the computer, the space bar wasn't working or something like that. All sorts of issues. If you can think of it, it happened. The bad news for those students was the government didn't do very much. They just try to just fix on the spot. Oh, here's a different device. I'll give you, just restart your test, and you were up to it stopped at like 20 minutes left. We'll give you 25 minutes and fill in your other answers. They tried to do what they could to kind of fix the situation, but Yeah, to be honest, a lot of this, it really was a big disruption for the kids. Some parents put in like appeals afterwards. To my knowledge, they didn't get any bonus marks for it. And I think that was one of the reasons why they just suddenly stopped it and took it off for the selective. The OC, it was very last minute. They just said, yes, we'll move it online. They did it. A lot of things went wrong. And then pretty much they took it off their website, I think several weeks after that. And pretty much for the next 3, 4 years, there was no mention about computer-based exams. So my opinion is I think they've probably been working in the background with Janison Solutions for the past few years, trying to figure out all the things that went wrong in that 1 year OC test and to make sure it doesn't happen again. So I'm hoping that the government has kind of learned from that one incident and kind of found solutions for all the things that went wrong in that year's OC test, and will fix it for all future exams. Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I think there's not much that as parents and students that you can really do for those sort of incidents and to prepare for those incidents. It's one of those things where it's like, if it does happen, just keep calm and just do your best to keep calm and just keep going. Yeah, I'm hoping that the government has really done a lot to kind of fix those issues that they faced in the OC test a few years back. A parent asked, how long is the selective test? It's just the same length that is on their website right now that they've been doing for the previous. There hasn't been any changes to the length of each section. When do we register for the students to sit the test? Okay, that's a good question. What I might do is I will go and continue on with my presentation, and then I'll answer the rest of the questions after the next section, because the answer to your question of when do you register will be on the next slides. So let's keep going. So other miscellaneous changes. So in terms of other miscellaneous changes, these were things that were not really significant enough to have a section in itself, but are still very important things to note. So the application period. So it now opens for students who are sitting the OC and selective tests next year. The application will now open on the 7th of November in 2024, and then it will close on the 21st of February in 2025. So what this means is the application window is now about 6 weeks long. Sorry, the old one was 6 weeks long, but now it's gone to 14 weeks long. So now parents have a significantly longer period of time to apply for the test, which is good news, because in the past, every year, Alpha One does send out the reminders like, hey, the test application is going to be closing soon. We put on our social media. But like every year, there's parents who kind of forget, they have a busy, month or two at work, and they kind of lose track of it and then accidentally forget to put through their OC selective test applications, which is, it can be quite frustrating, understandably. But I think now that the government has extended it to more than double the original application window, I think that will be a lot less likely to happen. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. Another thing is the outcomes will be announced a lot earlier in term 3. So now because the multiple choice sections will essentially be automatically marked, what that means is the results will come out a lot faster. So this will be good news for those parents who are also looking to apply for private schools, because when I talk to parents each year, there's a lot of parents who essentially are in a position where they've got a private school offer or a scholarship offer at a private school, and then the private school is kind of pushing them to commit to the school and make them pay several $1,000s. But the parents don't know if they have an outcome, a selective or OC outcome, like an offer yet. So they kind of pay and have to just kind of wait. But because the outcomes are brought earlier, I think this will be less of an issue. Sure, some private schools, every private school does it differently. Some private schools might, give out an offer in term 1 and ask parents to confirm their enrollment for next year in term 1 and pay a deposit. For those schools, unfortunately, you'll still be in a scenario where you'll have to pay to kind of hold that spot while you wait for selective offers to come out. But for some of the private schools where they do that in like term 3, this change will be good news for you, because you can essentially not have to waste those few $1,000s to hold a spot. Next one is just the tests will not be held at schools anymore. They'll be held at external test centers. The government hasn't really given much information about what is an external test center, but I essentially assume it's just it's probably just different locations such as TAFEs, universities or any other sort of organizations that the government has a good relationship with that has their own computer devices that they're willing for the government to use for the duration of the OC and selective test period. So closer towards the exam date, essentially the students will be allocated to the nearby external test center, and that's where you'll be going. So it will no longer be the high school down the road. I've just put a bit of a photo down there as well for the future placement test dates. So the government has already kind of finalized the test dates for 2026, 2027, 2028, which is why I kind of feel like the government is really kind of committed to this sort of change, because they've started releasing a lot of logistics, information on the logistics of the test. Whereas in the previous year, when they kind of backtracked, they didn't. It was just simply like the test will be going online, and then they release that information to the OC kids quite last minute. And then they did it, and then they kind of backtracked it really quick as well. So yeah, so because there's so much more information available now, it leads us to believe that they will transition to this online format. Okay, so I think I'll go through some more Q&A questions. So if you have any questions that's popped into mind, feel free to just put in the Q&A, and I'll just keep answering the questions. And yeah, just a quick reminder before I go into the Q&A. If you do want to practice online test questions now, right off the bat, Alpha One actually already has online test papers that you can actually purchase. Sophie will just I think she might just put I think a link in the chat or the Q&A, which takes you to that website, so you can take a look, and pretty much it's just reading, math, thinking skill papers that you can purchase and so that you can see on an online format. If you can't see the link, or if she doesn't manage to find a way to post it, if you just go on our website and you look at the resources tab, I think she will be able to, you'll be able to find it. Yeah, I think Sophie's just mentioned to me that she can't send the link anywhere. I might see if I can adjust the settings. Okay, I've just changed the settings so that Sophie can send a chat to everyone. So I think she should be able to send it now. But anyways, if you don't manage to find it, or if Sophie isn't able to send you that link, you can just go on our website, and it's just in the resources section. I think it's called like online test bundles or packs or something like that. So you can you can just do the tests there for practice. Now, just to go through some more questions. All right, so one parent asked, what if the tests are difficult one day compared to another? How are the results justified? Yeah, so I think that's a very valid question. And yeah, I mean, it's something where I'm sure the government is talking with Cambridge Assessments and saying like, okay, we have to make sure that the tests are like, like the similar level of difficulty. Cambridge Assessments has had a lot of experience running exams, so setting them at different difficulties. So I feel like they will be roughly the same. That being said, there is a I mean, even if tests are the same, sometimes kids get lucky on one paper versus another. For example, there's like this question where, technically, if these two questions, when you look at it and compare it amongst the cohort, 65% of kids get this question right. 65% of kids get that question right. It's exactly the same, but your child might find this question hard and just might find that question easy. So statistically, it's the same difficulty, but your child might, not actually find the same difficulty. And it's one of those things where, I mean, I don't think there's much that as parents, students, or us we can really do. It's just one of the things where it's like, this is how the government has decided to change the selective and OC tests, and we can call them up and write emails to kind of complain about it. But I don't think they will really kind of change anything. But I know they will do everything they can to make it as similar in difficulty as possible, so that the results are as reliable and justified as possible. Um, One parent asked, before the child sits the test in May and the results come in August, would the process would the process be faster? Not too sure if I understand the question, but the process will be faster, like in terms of the marking process and the getting the outcomes to parents. That process will definitely be a lot faster because they don't need to scan all the bubble sheets. But if you were trying to ask a different question, feel free to just retype the question and I'll answer it again when I get to it again. Do kids get provided with one screen or two? I'm pretty sure it'll just be one screen. Yeah, I don't think the government will have the resources for two screens. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll just be one. Can students change the answer if they find the answer wrong? Yes, they should. I mean, the government hasn't said it, but I think it's like a sort of like basic thing that the government would have thought about. So yes, I'm like 99.9% sure that the child will have that option to change the option if they change their mind. Yes. So one parent's a good question. I'll read out the full question. In reading, normally kids are taught to underline or write keywords for each paragraph or extract they read. How do they do that when it gets online? Will they facilitate to write on screen? Is Alpha going to teach strategies to handle in WMT class how to okay, so I think essentially are we going to teach strategies on how to do it? So yes. So essentially, once we know what the test platform looks like, parents, you can count on us that we'll release further information on some. We'll probably have another very similar webinar where it will be some tips and tricks based on the new format. I've seen a lot of online test platforms in my time, some which are very basic, where it just lets you kind of just click the answer and just move on to the next one. And there's some more advanced ones where you can highlight sections of the like question, you can underline, you can cross out options to say I don't want to do, I've eliminated this option. So there's a really wide range of possibilities. Once the government or Janison Solutions releases a like a sample computer-based exam, we will start incorporating tips and tricks and strategies to kind of really give you the biggest advantages that we can for the new format of the test. So to answer your question, at the moment, because the government hasn't released any information, we don't know what it looks like. We can't really give you any strategies, but as soon as they do, you can count on us to start strategizing and providing recommendations for that. For students writing the OC exam this year, is it recommended for them to start enrolling to the selective exam preparation right away? So that's like a complex question, but if I really boil it down, it comes down to what your goals are as a parent. If you should enroll in selective prep right away. If you're in the category of parents where it's like, yes, I really, really want to get into selective, and I don't really like my local high school. Private schools are not an option. Selective schools are the only kind of thing that I am really banking on. Then I would say, yes, you probably want to enroll right away, because the selective test is not like a university or a, other type of exam where it's just, like pass, fail, that sort of test. The selective test is like if you get a spot or not depends on where you rank amongst all the students. So if you are really banking on getting to selective, then you have to kind of like beat other students essentially. And as a result, because a lot of other students are preparing right after the OC test, then I would recommend that you would be best to get the best chances, it would be to start preparing right after as well. But if you're falling in the category of like, I would like to sit the selective test, but we've got a private school that we're really happy with that we would like to go to. We're happy to go to. A selective school is just one of the options. Or our local high school is a really good local high school, and if I can't get into selective tests, I'm not really that like fussed. I'll just go to the local high school, and if you kind of fall into that sort of boat, you can take a term or two off. It's completely fine, and then just start maybe at the start of term 5. That will give you enough time to do some preparations. So yeah, to answer your question, really comes down to which boat you're sitting in. The parent asks, will the government release more information about the selective test closer to the date? Okay. I think the parent's asking, when I say close to the date, doesn't mean next year. So I think different information will get released at different points in time. So for example, which test center your child would go to, I think that will only be released like 2 weeks before the test, when you get that test authority letter. For parents who don't know what that is, it's just essentially like a ticket that says your child is allowed to go and sit the selective or OC test. So where you're seeing the OC or selective test, essentially you'll probably only know that like 2 weeks before or a week before. In terms of what the test platform looks like, I think it will be much earlier. I think that will probably be like later this year, maybe like November, December. That's generally when the governments have released their like sample practice papers each year, like towards the end, like December, November, somewhere around there. So I assume it would probably be roughly the same period of time. If there's any other bits of information that you want to know, and you want to know maybe when they might release that, feel free to put it in as another Q&A, and I can let you know what my thoughts are. Another parent asked, same question, just will they get working out paper or not? Not sure about that yet. The government hasn't released any information, but once we do know, we'll let parents know. Is Alpha 1 coaching SCTs and materials similar to the main exam or harder? So our kind of like philosophy for the OC and selective test is we want to put it like at, so the test ranges generally, the test is never the same level of difficulty when you look at, say, the 2021 test, 2022 selective test, 2023 selective test. Like, for example, if you look at the past papers the government put on the website and you get your child to do them, they'll say, oh, this year was harder than this year. So the test, in reality, it does range around like this amount. And the way we approach is we try to make the difficulty like around here. The only exception to that is the maths. Maths is just so easy that we generally don't, like, the maths is here and then we kind of make it here, mainly because like if we do lower it to that, like most kids will just be getting full marks every week at the SETC. So maths is the only one where we do make it a little bit harder, but for the other ones, such as reading, thinking skills and writing, where they are a bit challenging for kids, we just kind of put it here. A lot of tutoring centers do put it like significantly higher, but it's one of those things where the kids get like demotivated, they get discouraged, they get upset. So we want to minimize that, and you're essentially preparing for difficulty level that the child would never face. So it's not a really kind of useful not a great use of time. So yeah, we kind of put it at a similar level or slightly more difficult. Next question. A parent asked, how many trial tests will there be in the WMT class? So the WMT class is doesn't have trial tests. The WMT class is like a theory-based class. So it's essentially teaching the students how to do the different types of questions that show up in the OC or selective test. The OC trial test and the selective trial test classes are the ones where you go and do trial tests, or you can go to the holiday programs. The holiday programs are where the trial tests will be happening. A parent asks, is there an option to opt for a written-based exam, or is an online exam mandatory? For the general average student, no, they're not going to offer a paper-based exam. It'll pretty much be online only. The only situation where I can think of where they might give you a paper-based exam is if you have extenuating circumstance which prevents you from doing an online exam. I'm just trying to think of something. I'm trying to think of something really weird. Maybe something where a child has um, epilepsy or something, and when they look at a computer screen, they have an increased chance that they'll get seizures or something like that. I think in those cases, because the government doesn't want the child getting seizures in the middle of a OC or selective exam, and there's no real way to kind of prevent that unless they just say no, computer screen. I think they'll probably either give you a scribe, so there's someone else who's kind of typing it out for you or reading out the questions, and then and they're the ones who are typing it in for you, similar to if you broke your arm and like in a selective test, and you have someone else writing your answers for you. I think that's one option they could do. The other option is they give you a paper-based exam. So I think in those sort of circumstances, they will probably give you an alternative to a computer-based exam, but they'll be you'll need to provide evidence and documentation from like a specialist, a medical specialist, saying all that. If you're just a general, like, oh, my child doesn't like a computer, or even if you have a very legitimate reason why, like for example, they're very slow at typing because they have a disability where their motor skills are not very fast. I think the government might just give you more time. I don't think they will kind of give you a paper-based exam. It would have to be a reason why it's an absolute, you cannot use a computer. It has to be one of those reasons for them to give you an exception and not give you a computer. Okay. So someone asked, the Catholic school didn't send them the link to the selective test. Does Alpha One send the link directly to parents? So yes, when we remind parents to apply for the test, we will send you the link, but you can find it very easily. So you don't have to wait for your school to send to you or Alpha One to send it. You just search register for the selective test or OC test, and it will just show up on Google as like the first or second one. But just keep in mind, if you do it now, you won't be able to see any link. You have to wait until 7th of November for that to become available. There won't be any link right now. You have to wait until the 7th of November. But after that date, yes, you'll be able to find and search and Google that link. When is the best time to start focusing on the OC test? Mine is in year 2. So I think if you're in like kindergarten, year 1 or year 2, I think generally it's a little bit early for OC preparation. And I think at that age, you should really be working on the foundations, like, being able to do long division, being able to multiply, like larger numbers, have the, multiplication times tables memorized off by heart, like kind of those sort of foundations. You're not really doing things that are specifically for OC. For kindergarten, year 1, year 2, you should be doing those foundations, like how to do fractions, decimals, things like that. So if you kind of want a reference point, I would say try to learn, like push ahead on the school curriculum to like a year 3, year 4 level, ahead of schedule if you're trying to prepare early. Because the biggest thing that I see where kids struggle with OC test preparation is not that when they come and do OC preparation Alpha One that they, struggle with the like concepts and say, oh, like I don't really understand what this concept is. Where like there are kids who are in that category, but the majority of students who are struggling are more like students who haven't actually figured out the basics that they should have learned in kindergarten, year 1, year 2, and then they come and start trying to prepare for OC, and then they struggle. And it's kind of like they're understanding all these concepts that they're learning in class, like say area perimeter, but then they struggle to apply it because they don't have the underlying foundations. It's kind of like if you're building a house, you start getting the roof tiles and I'm not in construction, so I don't know what the terms are, but the support beams, you get that all delivered, but you didn't pour the foundation, so you can't actually build the house yet. So so if you're in like kindergarten, year 1, year 2, I'd recommend just like working on the foundations. If you're in like year 3, 4, 5, 6, and like you feel like your child's foundations are not strong, it doesn't mean like all hope is lost. You can still kind of improve, and I see it every year. It just means that you have to work on the foundations, like how to work with percentages, how to do fractions, and you have to spend a lot of extra time just kind of catching up on those foundations while you're also learning the OC and selective concepts. But yeah, to make your life as easy as possible, if your child is young, just work on the foundations first. Another parent asked, will students be provided a chance to revise and check all the submit answers or not? Yes, yes, I think they would. Yes, the government hasn't said it, but I think it's a very basic test taking function that they'll take into consideration. Yeah. So the parent asks, will they get additional adjustments, like additional times in case of a disability, similar to like NAPLAN OC? Yes, yes. I think if you have a reasonable disability, the government is generally quite happy to give you accommodations, like whether it's a bit of extra time or an extra break in the middle and or something like that. Yeah. Is there negative marking or are there questions with multiple answers? No, so it would all just be the same format as right now. So you can only really choose one answer. Well, in the real test and the selective right now, if you bubble in two, three answers, it's just automatically wrong. I think in the online platform, either, I think they'll probably just restrict you to only choosing one option. But if the software doesn't restrict you to that and your child chooses like two, three options, they'll automatically get it wrong, similar to in the current selective and OC test. Will writing assessments be marked by an AI tool in selective? No. I mean, the AI tool, I mean, I've been kind of like looking quite closely into AI and like kind of researching like in depth into it. AI right now, it's not at that level where you can like use it to help a human to like do it faster, but you can't, it's not at that level where it can like reliably provide like feedback and you can kind of trust it that it will be accurate. Like actually, Alpha One is just provide actually working on a free kind of tool that we're going to release to parents in a few weeks' time, where it's like a AI tool where you can just it's just be on our website. You can just log in and just submit your child's writing and get some feedback. But pretty much we had to remove the marking component of it because the technology for AI is not at that level where it can actually judge it very accurately. There are some more advanced sort of techniques, like retrieval augmented generation, that you can kind of implement that will like give you more accurate data. But I don't think the government has had time to implement it. I think 5 years down the line, sure, maybe they will probably implement something that will just mark it, and then so they can get the results out even faster for the OC selective test. But at the moment, for the next 2-3 years, I'm like 99.9% sure it will still be humans marking it. They don't have to provide feedback. So the main benefit for AI tool is it can provide decent feedback. And its accuracy accurate maybe like 80% of the time. So you just need a human there to kind of like screen it and like verify it. But for the scoring, it's not worth it. It's the technology is not there at the moment, from what I can see. And I think the government will be still using humans to mark. What percentile should students perform in OCTT consistently to have a realistic chance of succeeding in the mid-level OC school? So in the OCTT course, I just recommend looking at the list of like schools, and it shows you which ones are red, green, and yellow. That one's a pretty good indicator of which schools if your child is likely to get in. In terms of what percentile, it really depends which one. And off the top of my head, I mean, these days, because we developed such a good like kind of like list of schools and that system that kind of gives recommendations based on coloring, like red, yellow, green. I personally don't look at the percentiles anymore, to be honest, because looking at this list of schools is just like it gives you your answer you want. But I think you need to be like in the top. It'll be somewhere in like the top, like 15 to 20%, like above the 20% percentile. If not, like even better, like you probably need to be like the 15 like to 10. But yeah, it just depends on which mid-level school you're talking about. What are my thoughts on partial selective schools? I'll just do a quick one here, a quick response for that one because it's not really related to the changes, but I'll give you like a 30-second summary. Partial selective schools they're not bad or good. At the end of the day, it comes down to what options you have. If you have a very good private school, a really good local high school, then to be honest, partial schools might not really be worth it and not great for you because like it's not much point traveling to a partial school when your local high school down the road is, really highly ranked. Like, for example, Cherrybrook Technology High School. But if your local high school is not good, it's ranked, like ranked 600 in the HSC Year 12 exams. You don't have any private schools that you're like hoping to go to. And so it's really, in your case, selective or your local high school. In those cases, partial selective schools are great. Like it's a lot of good ones out there where it will be much better than your local high school that I would recommend applying for. So yeah, ultimately it depends on what your individual circumstances are. Yeah, when you get close to the applications and you have to choose schools and you don't know if you should choose partial schools or not, selective schools or not, feel free to reach out to like I myself, as well as a few other academic advisors. We provide guidance on that. So feel free to reach out for more individualized feedback when the application's open. What are some examples of external test centers? This is just my sort of guess. I think it'll probably be like TAFEs, probably like universities, community centers, that sort of thing. Like places where they probably did like like the voting for the local council, government voting, like kind of places like that. That's just my best guess, but they'll release more information closer to the date. But pretty much just any, I mean, if you just think through it logically, it would just be places that the government has a relationship with that they can either put computers there, or they already have computers. Yeah, so you just think of places where that could be. So yeah, those places that I mentioned are possible places. One parent asked, can we get writing homework online and submit online as a paper? Yeah, so you can, a lot of parents have already been doing it already, where it's like the kids just type it on Microsoft Word and just submit it as a Microsoft Word file. So you can just, do that, and that can give kids an opportunity to practice their typing. That's a good idea. Another parent asked, when should they move from WMT to SCTC? Pretty much when, I've already answered this one, so I'll give a brief answer in case you missed the previous one. It's pretty much when your child is already confident on the concepts, selective concepts. They don't need to know every single concept, but once they're fairly confident with most of the concepts, that's when I would recommend moving along to that one. Okay. This is a very good question. A parent asked, so the SCTC red, green, amber school listing is based on the Alpha 1 cohort. It differs to the OC selective calculator. Example, Penrith. Yep. So pretty much what they're saying is when they put in their marks for the website, and then when they look at what's on the selective trial test report, it's different. That's a very good question. And like, here's the answer to that. So it's not an actual issue with the reports, and it's not an actual issue with the website, the calculator on the website. The reasoning is when you have a hard test, or if you have a slightly easy test, tests will always have a range of difficulty. And if you have a hard test, your kids' marks will drop, but everyone finds it hard. So everyone's marks on average will drop as well. So because the test is not a basic university test where it's like, oh, you got 50%, congratulations, you passed, or you got below 50%, you failed, you have to, do the test again. Because the selective test is not like that. The selective test is more like, if you rank here, you will get into this school. If you rank here, you'll probably get into this school. And when a test gets hard, the scores all drop, but the rankings generally will stay the same because everyone's results will drop by a certain degree when it's a harder test. And so the selective trial test reports take that into consideration, and we give recommendations based on what ranking percentile your child got in that SCTC report. So now, when you think about the selective, the OC selective calculator on our website, that calculator doesn't know what test you're sitting. It doesn't have any reference point. So it just uses a very average test difficulty as its benchmark for so on. So if you do a very easy test and you put all the results in, it will end up, your recommendations will be a little bit higher than what it should be. Likewise, if you get a very hard test and you put something in, the marks in, as a result, your recommendations will be a lot lower than what it should be. That's why we kind of have the disclaimer on there where it's just use it for reference, and had mentioned something about SCTC. But if you're a parent that does SCTC, and you're plugging in results into the calculator, I would say refer to the STTC recommendations, because that is the true most correct one, because it uses a percentile, and we use previous cohorts results in the actual selective test to give feedback, to give you recommendations on which schools to apply for, or which ones you could get into. The only time I would really, if you're doing STTC, the only time I would recommend using that calculator, my personal recommendation is if you're doing a test that's not like a Alpha 1 test, if you're just doing a random one that you got off the website, or if you got a random one that you got somewhere else, and you're doing it and you can plug it in. But just keep in mind, if your child says it was a very hard test or a very easy test, when you look at the results, just keep that in consideration. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. If you do have any follow-up ones, feel welcome to submit another question. How can we send writing to Alpha to get feedback? At the moment, we only have feedback. We only give feedback if for the students who are in WMT and our courses, and in the booklets it tells you how to submit feedback. But I'm not sure if you might have missed it 10 minutes ago. I mentioned we actually are developing a free AI writing tool, which gives actually genuinely very good feedback. We took off the marking component of it because the technology is not there to give accurate marks, and we didn't want to kind of mislead parents. But the actual comments and guidance and feedback that it gives is actually very good, very good. So we will be releasing that in the coming weeks. So if you're not an Alpha 1 student, and you do want to get some feedback, we've kind of uploaded all our marking criteria and things like that onto the actual like the back end of it. So it provides feedback based on our writing marking criteria is based on what the government has released and is on their website. So that pretty much the feedback you get is pretty much what the selective test is looking for. So that will become available in a couple of weeks' time. And if you're not a student Alpha 1, keep an eye out on our Facebook, WeChat. We'll be posting an announcement there, and that will be very exciting and a great resource for free. Can we get all the concepts for all the subjects included in the selective test? Yes. So so this one we can give you a just a kind of like the subjects. If you kind of are enrolled in our WMT courses, it's just pretty much in the front cover, it shows you the terms topics. If you look at a couple terms booklets, it's just those. And then the government doesn't release any kind of criteria for curriculum, or syllabus for what's in the test. So generally, it's every year there might be an extra topic here or there. But if you if you just have a look in the WMT book in the front cover, all the subjects, all the topics are, all the concepts are essentially there. What time will the selected test be held? Most likely in the morning. How do I know that? I think they don't say specifically, but I think traditionally it's always been in the morning and finishes in the early afternoon. Also, I think for the government to pay the people to invigilate, there's going to be hundreds of staff. It's going to, I think, be more expensive for them to do like a nighttime exam. So I think it will probably be like a daytime exam. I think it's just easier for them to do daytime exam. Cool. Okay. I think that's actually most of the questions. I've just cleared the question in the Q&A. Another parent asking to send writing for feedback. Once we have that free tool, just use that one. It's very good. To be honest, the feedback there is, it's actually really good. I was really impressed with how well it is. And I think if you're just wanting some extra practice, probably just use that. I mean, because you can send it in, but it's like you'll have to wait for more time for it to come back. You'll have to wait a few days for it to come back. And but whereas if you do it through the online tool, it will actually be instantaneous. And you can test and play around with it once it becomes available. But the feedback is genuinely really, really good. Another parent asked a good question, just a general question about they have a lot of work already from the WMT and SCTC. Should they do more work than that? Um, I think for OC selective prep, it's always a situation where you just do however much the child can do. You don't want to be kind of like overworking your child, because if you do, then in the end, it's kind of like you think of it like a like I'm just trying to think of an analogy. It's like if you have an engine and you kind of red line the engine all the time, it's gonna like break really early. So it's same as like preparations, and not even for OC selective, but just exams in general. If you keep like kind of putting a lot of work in, you're in that red line all the time, like children, also just like later on, you'll get to a point where the kids just give up and they just don't want to study more. They just hate it and don't want anything to do with it. And it's really hard at that point to really get them to effectively study. So as parents, every child's, is different, and how much they can work is different. And as parents, I think you're probably the best person to judge what is that comfortable amount. So if it's like a dial, and if this is the red line, you probably want to be like operating here, so you don't want to go all the way there. And if they do have more capacity on top of WMT and SCTC, I would say if your child is still trying to master some of the concepts, probably just some books where you just go through, like there's one which is called it's called SAP. I think it's like Singaporean something. I think on the front cover, it's like the photo of like a drawing of a seahorse. I think the year 5 one's purple. The year 6 one, I think, is orange. I think it's called like problem solving strategies. That one is quite good for like if you just want to work on a particular type of topic and just practice your and consolidate your knowledge on those concepts and that topic. If your child is more like advanced and they know all the concepts quite well and they want to practice more, then I think it's just practice, test, practice, test, practice, test, and just do practice tests under time conditions, mark it, review their mistakes, and then repeat and just repeat and repeat and repeat, and just keep doing it over and over again. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend if you're looking for more work. Okay. I'm happy to do a few more minutes. And I've gone over time. So if you do have more questions, feel free to keep asking questions. I think there's a lot of really good questions that are being asked. So happy to kind of stay online for a little bit longer and just answer questions. Okay, so another parent asked, do we provide questions with advanced difficulty levels based on topics? So we don't have like a worksheet that we can just say like, oh, here's the advanced, these are classifications of advanced difficulty, but it's in the SCTC, WMT, there are advanced difficulty questions based on topics, just in terms of like, this week, the topic of the week is for WMT is, say, like strength and weakening. There will be some questions there which are more advanced. It's not, so if the selective difficulty is like this, like from easy to hard, like this level, there will be some questions that are like here, but we won't put any questions that are like way up there, because then it just becomes not realistic for the kids, and it's just they're just struggling for not a lot of benefit. So yeah, but there will be some difficult questions that we include. Can we get an extra booklets of WMT? Yes, we do have like a booklet reprint form that you can fill out. We do just charge $3 a booklet just for the printing, because now we used to own printing, but now the printing, we just have an external like company like that essentially services our printing and charges us for it. So yeah, it's just a couple of dollars, but yes, you can get extra booklets. What is the book called? Let me have a look. I might actually just search it for you now and try to find it. Yes. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I found it. Yes. Okay. So I'll just show you. You can go to Five Senses, the bookstore in like North Rocks and Seven Hills, but it just looks like this. It's like a purple book, and it just says like math strategies. It's called like SAP maths. I know it's backwards. My apologies for that. If you can't find it and you wanna email it in, just maybe Sophie can find it on her website on her end and just put the link in the chat. It's just SAP Math Problem Solving Strategies Book 5. I think Book 5 for Year 5, and then they have a Book 6, Book 4. Yeah. So yeah, I think Sophie can just put that one in the chat, and you can just wait for that one to go up. And you can just click, and that one's a pretty good one for just practicing extra, like if you want to practice a particular topic like ratios, for example. Oh, okay. Another question. Can we apply for gifted and talented classes? Do they take kids from other suburbs? So answer used to be yes. And then a few years ago, they changed it to no. So and now for gifted and talented classes, you have to be in the local catchment area. And then once you're in that school for the local catchment, then you can go and sit the gifted and talented. I think they had a big issue where there was like 600 kids showing up to the gifted and talented classes for like schools like Castle Hill High and, those good ones. And so as a result, they stopped taking out of catchment. I can see another question that Sophie's responding to, just extra links for test samples and links. For extra test samples, for free ones, you can go on the government website or our discussion page. For paid ones, we do have online test packs that you can purchase. That's on our website that Sophie posted in the chat. Yeah. If there's any other ones, 5 Cents is a good bookstore to get extra materials. Okay. One parent wants me to touch upon. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So I think a few more. I think a lot of questions now coming in are just more like not related to the changes, but just general questions parents want to ask. So I think it's turning to a general Q&A. I'm happy to answer these questions. But if you only were interested in the changes, then I think that's pretty much it. But I'll keep answering the miscellaneous ones. So can you touch upon applying for scholarships? How early on do we need to contact the school? So that's very different. So for scholarships for private schools, every school does it differently. So pretty much there's no simple answer. What my recommendation is just start as early as possible and figure out what schools you would like your child to go to for private school scholarships. And then once you figure it out, I mean, don't kind of like go and try to find 20 schools. That's too many. You won't be able to like keep on top of all the application processes unless you're kind of doing it on like full time. And I'm going to apply for school A, then B, then F, G, and then like kind of do this test. It's too many. Just figure out like I would say 3 to 5 schools that you actually really like, and you like the school. It's convenient. It's good values. It aligns with what your values are, and then just find out when the application process is. Yeah. Some schools, like the really competitive ones, I've heard, like Shore, I think you have to apply when you're like the child is born. So some of those ones are really, really early, but most schools are not like that. But I think it just goes to show if you are serious about private schools and scholarships, just research it very early as soon as you know that you want to do it. Another parent asked, are the selective test papers on the website same as the STTC course test papers? No, they're different. They're completely different papers. So yeah, they're a different set of questions. Okay. I don't have any questions at the moment. I might just wait for a little bit, see if there's anything else that comes through. I might put a hard stop at 12:30. So yeah, if you have any questions, put it in now. If no questions come across in the next 30 seconds or so, then I might just finish the session today. But if more questions do come through, I'll keep answering them until 12:30. And yeah, just while waiting, just a reminder, if you're looking to join in term 3, just try to call as soon as possible, because a lot of the branches do get booked out really early, and it's just like the wait lists. And I understand like it gets quite frustrating sitting on the wait lists. But it's just the number of spots we have just are not enough for the amount of people who inquire. So the best thing is to do is just call early. For some of the branches, they'll be able to book you right in, because the wait list doesn't build as much, but some of the other branches will put you on a contact list and then just reach out to you. And yeah, just as a reminder, we have branches in Bella Vista, Parramatta, Epping, Burwood online, as well as a new one opening up in Tallawong at the start of next term. One parent asked, if you miss the makeup test, Do you have no more dates to do it? Yeah, I think if you miss the makeup test, and that's like, yeah, no more test dates for you. It's kind of like they'll look at what your reason is for missing that test. But from my experience, the government is very like not they don't really give you many how do I say it? They don't give you many they don't give you much leniency for getting into selective if you haven't, or OC if you haven't sat the test. Um, um, I think if someone wants to do a consultation phone call, yeah, just you can drop an email to the Bella Vista branch. We do have booking forms if parents want to have like a consultation, so that's fine. Just yeah, drop an email and we'll give you a booking link. If it's for applications, just leave it for like until like when the application's open, because this early on, like it's most your kids' abilities will change drastically compared to end of the year. So yeah. Uh one parent is asking kind of comparisons with trial tests with other tutoring centers. I won't kind of go through in detail with the other tutoring centers, just because I think just I don't want to be sitting here uh, kind of like talking negatively about other places, but I don't want to kind of go into that, so I won't do that. But just in general, just the Alpha One, we just do a lot of effort into like putting the difficulty in the right level. Some places are way too easy. I think for some of the other places, like some of the like quote unquote like better other places, the test papers are probably a little bit too easy, or a little bit too hard. For some of the other places that are really like off the mark, like some of the questions just like completely different to what actually shows up in the test, because they just haven't done their research. And we've had like some parents that like have come and then spoken to us and then said, the questions like they were really concerned because they said, oh, before we went here and then we came here and then the questions were really different, like who's right? And then we reassured them that we've done a lot of research and done made sure the questions are as close as possible. And after the kids like sat the actual selective test or OC test, and they came back and said, like I see what you meant, like we should have come across earlier and shifted across earlier, because the other place wasn't doing their research and actually had, either things on the old curriculum, or just it was just not like they just didn't research and they just made up questions based on what they thought was in the test. So yeah, I won't go into specifics in terms of different places versus different places, but most places, most of the better places, which are quite popular, it's usually the questions are a bit too hard or a little bit too easy. But some of the less popular places that are not so good, it's usually their syllabus or curriculum is not accurate. But yeah, I won't go into like specific places, details about specific other places. Can you please tell me more about online classes? Okay, yep. So online classes just run through Zoom. It's just live classes, just like pretty much like right now, except you right now webinar you can't interact with me because I didn't want several hundred parents like interacting, because it'll be very hard to manage the conversation. But the live class, because it's a small group class, kids will be able to interact with the tutor, ask questions, tutor will respond, pretty much draw on the screen, do the calculation on the screen. It's just like a regular class, but it's done online. So same class sizes and same materials. So it's quite good for parents who are quite busy, like, and don't have time to drive their kids to the lesson, and it saves a lot of time, and yeah, so on. So if you're interested in online classes, just go on our website and find the online class contact details, and just inquire and give them a call or an email. What are some non-selective good high schools that I recommend? If you refer to private schools, it comes down to how much you're willing to pay. And the more you pay, the better the academics will be and the better the extracurriculars will be. Yeah, you kind of it's generally like a correlation like that. If you're looking at local high schools, off the top of my head, I know the ones out in the western suburbs because that's where I'm based in Bella Vista. But the good ones would be Castle Hill High, Carlingford High, Carlingford High, Cherrybrook Tech, Epping Boys, Cheltenham Girls. Some of the emerging ones that are becoming very good nowadays are Glenwood, The ponds, they're starting to get quite good. So those are the ones I think are fairly decent. Yeah, if you don't live in catchment area, you can't go to them. You'll have to move houses and go there. But yeah, Castle High, Cherrybrook, Carlingford, Epping Boys, Cheltenham Girls, and then some of the improving ones would be what was it? Ponds, Glenwood, and I think some in the eastern directions. I think some like Rose Bay Secondary College, that's partial selective, but you can get in as a local catchment, as well as like Kalara. I think yeah, there's a few of them. How does Alpha One prepare the questions for WMT and selective classes? So pretty much we have the materials, and then every year we find out what was in the test, and then what we do is we just find and pretty much look at, okay, what are the questions that have not shown up for several years? For example, one example would be circle area and circumference. That question has not shown up in the selective test for like 4 or 5 years, so we pretty much remove them all from the curriculum for WMT as well as SCTC. And then for new topics that come in, we start including it into the curriculum. So just trying to think of one. I think for thinking skills, there was like a lot of like problem-based sort of like finding procedures where they give you like scenarios and like types of questions, and a lot of visual reasoning type questions. Like those ones, we start adding more of them into the WMT and the trial test class. So pretty much every year, because we have really solid like foundations and like as in like a set of questions now for WMT and SCTC, every year what we do is we're just like updating it based on the changes. So we spend a lot of time and resources in that. Like I'm like good friends with some like other tutoring centers, like owners, and like they're like always like, wow, you spend a lot of time and money in the actual like development programs. Like we have like a team of like about 10 people who work on content because we know that's quite important. One online class, maximum class 8 students. There might be like an extra student 9 if there's a kid coming here for like on that class for a makeup, but yeah, just in terms of the maximum we book it to for the online classes, the same. It's as usual, just eight kids, because when it gets big, the kids just they can't focus. It's hard for them to focus and for the tutor to interact with them. Okay, cool. I think that's pretty much all the questions. So I might just end it there. Thank you for joining, and thanks for a lot of people for actually staying over time and until the very end. I actually thought I'd just be speaking to like 3 people at the very end. So I do appreciate it, and thank you for joining. And I hope I was able to give you some insight into the changes, as well as some other things that weren't related to the changes. But yeah, I probably will have another one as we get more information. Maybe I'll do one which is more like tips and tricks and strategies for the online computer-based test as they release more information about it in a sample paper. And yeah, we'll just leave it there for today. Thank you, everyone. Bye.